Hey SPN family, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jill.
And this is Roadhouse Idiots. So we're playing a little bit of catch up this week. So we want to talk about quickly episode 5 of season 12, which was the one you've been waiting for, and then we'll go into episode 6.
Which is going to be the main thing for this video, guys. It's all about episode 6. We just want to do a little recap since we did miss last week.
So, case in point for episode 5 is Dean killed Hitler.
Through Horcruxes.
I do want to spend at least a minute on this. So not a lot of big picture stuff took place. No Men of Letters scenario. No Mary Winchester scenario.
No Cass, no Crowley.
The writers do this like once every like couple of seasons where they just give you, I hate to call it a throwaway episode, but it's a throwaway episode.
Yeah, I don't like even... Oh, man. I'm going to be honest. This is not why we skipped the review last week. We just got, like, really busy with, like, events going on in our lives.
Life happens.
But it was almost, like, a convenient episode to miss because I feel really bad. But I wasn't crazy over the episode, to be honest. I love the Harry Potter references. I was cracking up hysterically with, like, Dean touching the ship and, like, knocking the ship over. And like Sam, like maybe we don't touch anything. Yeah. That was hysterical. The actor who played Hitler, like once he was possessed, he
was funny. He was good.
Was awesome. Like let's talk about these like couple of great things. And the girl was really funny too. Like so, I don't want to say it was just like an awful episode. There was things that I liked, and I loved hearing like it's a Harry Potter thing. Like you would know that. I love that because I'm such a Harry Potter nerd. That was all great, but like. I don't know. Some people, I think, really like the historical episodes. Like, I think it's like a niche. I personally don't
got no use for the tools.
No
use for them.
So, I mean, I didn't enjoy that episode as much. Let us know in the comments below. Maybe you did enjoy last week's episode. Like, I know, like, Hitler, that's, like, kind of a cool thing. And it worked out really well because... Then it got to be brought up in the most perfect way. Like, I was even saying it, and then Dean said it, and then Kim said it. So it worked as a really good excuse for the following week's episode. So that was nice about it, but it wasn't my favorite. But can we please talk about this week's episode? Because this week's episode is definitely my favorite episode of this season thus far, and I enjoyed every second of it.
I enjoyed every second of it. I had like butterflies.
You were scared.
Like I was
I
was nervous that somebody was going to get offed. I felt it was too early in the season to off a major character, so I didn't think it was going to happen, but needless to say,
no, you did.
Said it was
No. You were like, oh, God, I hope Jodie doesn't die. I think Jodie's gonna die. I'm like, Jodie's not gonna die. She's fine. Why are you saying it? And he's like, Billy the Reaper's here, and Jodie's gonna die, and like everyone's dying. And I'm like, Jodie's not gonna die. Like, you were so convinced that she was going to die that you got me a little bit nervous once she got possessed. Like, I knew she was gonna get possessed, but then you were like shaking on the couch. And so I was like, oh man. And the only thing that like kept me away from buying into your nervousness was I was like, they can't kill off Jodie Mills before she gets to have a chat with Mary Winchester. That's just like writing gold. They cannot pass up the opportunity of Jodie Mills telling Mary Winchester how awesome the boys are, which she did at the end of the episode. And I was like, they can't kill her off before they have that conversation. So I knew she was safe.
And she was.
But it was nerve-wracking.
It was. So, the whole like hunters in the house thing was kind of cool because
awesome.
you kind of, it almost kind of felt like a high school class reunion, because I don't have one of those coming up next week. Where you have like cliques of hunters that are like gossiping about the other. So like you hear like stories about Asa killing 5 Wendigos in a night.
J5.
And then, you know, these other hunters like gossiping about like Sam being possessed by Lucifer. So it's kind of funny to hear like
it was
like,
nice to hear some Roadhouse talk.
Hunters are cliquey.
Well, they have to be because like it's you have to have a very specific sense of humor for this lifestyle. You can't talk about it with normal people because they'll think you're insane. And you don't have that relation, so you sort of have an instant connection. It's anyone who's been through a trying experience, they just have an automatic understanding for each other, and that's what they have.
Yep.
So when they can hash out stories, I think it's very appropriate that they do, and I think you wouldn't expect anything else. And it was awesome to get to see some of that because it was so enjoyable just to see, because you knew like, well, Sam and Dean have to be legendary at these things. And they were. And so, like, lots of chatter about, like, oh, well, did you really die 4 times? Like, oh, and, like, except for on Tuesday, then, like, 8,000 times. But, and, like, were you possessed by the devil? And all these great things. And seeing the different hunter backgrounds, I would love to see more of that. I think they want to show more of that. I loved the writing for this episode. I loved getting to see all of these conversations, like these casual fun conversations, and mixing it into the case. So like those conversations weren't rushed. They were the majority of the episode, and it also did not take away from the drama. In fact, there was more drama as far as worrying about who's going to die this episode, because you had Billy the Reaper, and we've had, our favorite sheriff, who, like, you were convinced she was going to die. Like, so there was, like, that tension building up, like, going through it. I mean, doing the whole, like, Jody saying, I think your mom is possessed, like, became very obvious, that it was her who was possessed. And it's
come
like,
on, that's just,
come
TV
on
101.
now, like,
trying to convince that, somebody else is evil is, you're actually the evil one.
Like, your MO.
It's kind of,
it's me. Like, that part was really obvious.
It's an overused tactic.
Everything else was great.
Awesome.
Do you have a favorite scene?
Like the first 2 minutes.
Yes, that was mine too.
Or after the first 2 minutes after the cold open.
Yeah, not the cold opening. I just cannot get enough. It was one of my favorite scenes from last season too. By the way, was like the great awkward dinner with talking about condoms and like Sam and Dean not wanting this, and they just knock on the door, and immediately I said to you, I'm like, they're here for food. It's like they want to be fed. And it was so important, I think, to have that moment, first of all, because it is funny. Like, having Sam tell Jody, like, about Dean's fantasy and film of choice, and then Dean being embarrassed. Like, don't tell my mom that.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so perfect.
And that's what I want to bring up is, for the past, since Bobby died, Jody's the de facto parent.
Yeah, it was like, as soon as John died, Bobby took over. And when Bobby died, Jody took over.
She's not the biological mom, but she's kind of the cool aunt that you want to hang out with all the time.
She is, but in some ways, and that's like, when we saw the problem, because we saw with Jody how much more relaxed it is, and the boys do have like a mother-son relationship with Jody, and like that's why I think it was so brilliant to have the scene of them just being like boys and dishing and like having this great easy conversation. And then when Mary shows up, it becomes something very strained, something very difficult, not an easy conversation. And I think that that's something, it shows like the parallels of like the difficulties for it, and not that one's right and one's wrong. It's just like the pull of that relationship.
I say a lot that I think Kim Rhodes is very, very good at playing that character. And Grand Slam, she got every emotion
down
conceivable by humans in the span of 40 minutes. It was really cool.
So good. Like, it was such a starring episode for her. But also great episode again for Mary. I love her.
Yep, her and the boys are reconciling.
I loved
a bit.
They are. And I think I predicted, I said it would be easier for Sam than it was for Dean. It's Dean's MO to sort of build up this like barrier to keep himself away like from her, so he will act like a jerk to try to he will act like a jerk to try to make himself distance from the pain, and he always feels abandoned, so he's like, oh yeah, you couldn't figure out these problems with us right here, and he just sort of goes off, where Sam understands the needing to walk away, because Sam needed to walk away to find out that this is where he needed to be. And then it was great to have Sam and Mary have this moment, and then Jody be there for Dean and be like, listen, this is what it needs to be. But on the flip side of that, it was awesome, that end conversation with Sheriff Jody Mills and Mary Winchester, and you knew that Jody was gonna like give the boys some love and be like, they're pretty awesome. And Mary to immediately be like, oh, I know. And like, they're not the problem. And it shows you how much she's like Dean and Sam with the guilt, where you've got Dean doing this MO of putting this barrier up for her, but Mary is very quick. She has, unfortunately, the Winchester's trait of just taking on blame. She felt guilty with Asa. She felt that it was her fault. She was so quick to accept blame when Asa's mother wanted to blame her for it. She feels that it's her problem with the mess of everything now. So she's going through a really tough time, and she's sort of putting on this brave face of, you know, because it's still her sons and she wants to act strong for them. And then she was put through a really difficult test at the end of the episode with Billy. And then that kind of brought us into a little bit of a supernatural version of a Jared Padalecki always keep fighting campaign, because she had the option to give up. And she chose to stay, not because she wanted to, because she clearly doesn't, but she did that for her boys. And I think that's really respect Mary Winchester.
Let's give our ratings. So, episode 5, I give it honestly a 3.
5.
So 4.
5. Yeah, I think
3, 4. So
4 Impalas.
4 Impalas for episode 5 again.
For episode 5.
It happens, once every 2 seasons where you just get a throwaway episode with no real big picture implications.
No, but how great is it now that Dean gets "I killed Hitler"? And I love
that is that episode's saving grace.
I said in this episode, I was like, when he's like, so since we last saw each other, and I'm like, he's gonna talk about Hitler. I killed Hitler. Like, never mind that your mom is back from the dead. And then it came up later in the episode. 5.5-hour car ride, how we got to hear every detail about Hitler, but nothing on Mom. So that was a hysterically and accurate moment. So that was good.
On the flip side,
yep,
I give this week's episode I'm gonna preface this by saying I don't know what's gonna get a 10. I don't know where that bar is. I think Don't Call Me Shirley is probably the closest to a 10.
Swan Song is a 10.
Swan Song's a 10?
Swan Song is a 10 for me.
I give this
a 9, but a 9.5. Can we give 9.5s? Because I want it to be 9.5.
Look,
this was so good.
Any song that plays Alice in Chains, or any episode that has Alice in Chains in it's going to get a higher mark from me, so.
Oh my God.
Good job getting the rights to that one.
So good. Everything. The music was good. The writing was good. Anytime Kim Rhodes' name appears at the beginning, you are automatically happy. Does she have a bad episode?
And it's early enough in the season, too, where hopefully we get one more episode with her in it.
I know. Maybe her with another
sheriff. Well, we know she's coming eventually. We don't know if it's
together
or not, but...
Oh, my gosh. That was so good. I loved everything about it. So are we saying, 9.5? Because 9
I give it a 9.5. Yeah.
9.5.
This was a very good week.
Such a good week.
Good rebound from the previous week.
It makes last week worth it, because this episode was so good. It was good on suspense level of being worried if we were going to lose a character we loved. It was good on a writing of real moments. The scenes with Jody and the boys feel so much like real conversation. It does not feel like a scripted conversation. It's a natural conversation. I love that. I love hearing Roadhouse talk. How great was that? I love seeing hunters in this game of Clue and it's a hunter horror stuff. I loved getting Mary back, but I also love that she's going away again. And such a great episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.
Looking ahead.
As much as we did. Oh, yeah.
Looking ahead. These two
are coming back.
These two come back. They've had a 3-week break.
A little hiatus.
So we get them, and Rick Springfield's coming back, which I didn't think was going to happen. So
we were
he
talking
is.
about how we thought it was done. All right, you're going to sleep, Crowley. We were talking how we thought it was done.
I think it's going to be cool because I didn't really get much out of the next week's scenes, but after reading, I read a little synopsis of the episode, and it's going to kind of go into the underground music scene, which that's kind of near and dear to my heart.
And I'm really happy because that was one thing we didn't talk about it because we just ran out of time, and I was gonna say how I was a little bit disappointed that they went through all this trouble of saying oh, we're hiring Rick Springfield, we're hiring a musician who can act, and the scenes of him playing the guitar and doing musician things were so short that it feel like that. But now that we saw previews, I'm like, oh, cool, we're gonna get that, and I really want to see that. So I'm in a very, can you tell? I'm in a very upbeat spirit. I love this week's episode. I'm looking forward to the return episode. And guys, we're gonna come back with something a little bit fun, a little bit different. We'll do some SPN debates going down. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of this week's episode, what your favorite line was, because I can't decide if it's Billy saying Winchesters or if it is Jody saying that sucked, or if it was Sam talking about how Dean likes, the bustiation, Japanese erotica, or when Jody was explaining that it's difficult to have a sex life to the boys, or with Mary not giving up, or with Jody giving the, those boys are great line. I can't even decide what my favorite line was. So you guys have to decide in the comments below. Let us know if you are excited to see more Rick once we come back from the holidays. And if you have any supernatural debates that you would like us to see talk about, let us know in the comments below because we have a few, but we will be looking for more of these on our off weeks. Guys, thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe. That way you can catch every episode that we put out there. It was so much fun talking about this episode, so thanks for stopping by the Roadhouse.
Carry on and have a wayward Thanksgiving.